Hello, welcome to the Aartech Pro Connect Podcast, where we connect the industry experts to the industry pros with real conversations. I'm Allie, and today I am not only joined by Jeff Barrett, VP of Sales and Marketing, but also Aartech's very own president and founder, Robert Mowles, to talk about industry veteran Elk, who has been known for their integration-friendly alarm solutions for the last 25 plus years. Let's dive in.
So I'd like to welcome everybody today to another Aartech podcast. Today we're joined by Mike Burrell and Robert Dant from Elk and Rob from Aartech. He's our kind of resident Elk expert here at Aartech. So most people know Rob and I already. So Mike, I'll start with you. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Mike Burrell. I am president of Elk Products. Been in the industry since I was about 15 years old. Started out as a installation technician, worked up through operations management, all the way through distribution management, sales and distribution, technical and distribution, and more recently on the Elk side, product management, and then over to overseeing the company. It's been a great path, and very fortunate to be where I am. So,
great. And Robert, how about yourself?
Well, I'm Robert Dant. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Elk Products. I'm relatively new to the industry, but I've been involved with general sales and marketing throughout my career. So I found a good home here at Elk, within the past about 6 months or so.
Perfect. And for those that maybe don't know, I'm VP of Sales and Marketing here. Rob is our president and owner of Aartech Canada, and like I said, our resident expert. So I'm going to start pretty simple, and then I'm going to kind of let it go. First of all, do you want to tell us a little bit about your brand, what maybe differentiates yourselves from the industry?
You want me to take that, Rob?
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and give the elevator speech. Right. Well, Elk Products, we service the alarm and home integration industry. We've been around for 30 some years, and we've got a great history with Mowles products. Wade Mowles is the owner of the company. He's been building alarm products, and now we're into the alarm engine era. So we've got a great tradition of super high quality equipment, very, very expandable, and super easy for users to grow within an Elk system.
And you mentioned integration. That's a key point here that we want to kind of talk about. When a lot of people think alarms, they think pretty basic: sensors, sirens, signals and monitoring, alarm, disarm, that kind of thing. But Elk's always kind of, and again, this is pushing my limit a little bit on the integration side, but Elk's always felt different. It's always felt more of kind of a brain versus an alarm, in my opinion. How would you kind of expand upon that?
Well, within the integration industry, we've got a lot of partners, and we consider ourselves kind of like the alarm security column when someone is getting an entire house within, an integration platform. We work with a lot of the major providers out there, Control4, Savant, those types of people. And, those systems will run the entire house, and we just take care of the alarm aspect. We have our own app which can run and take care of the alarm infrastructure, but when we are working in an integration world, we tend to piggyback on top of the main integrators that are out there.
And so what kind of installer tends to succeed most with Elk? Is it more the security side? Is it more the integration side, or both?
I can speak to that, Rob.
Okay.
So really for Elk, we are very well respected and renowned in the integration market, since we play so well with the third-party operations out there. But we also have like I said, a long heritage in our security market. So I would say we kind of play to both sides, but really we're like, if you started polling the industry, the integrator, home automation, that side is where Elk really shines as a big name, just because we focused into being that niche and offering those integration partners some of the, differentiating factors for our system over others, where they can have a little more control and do a little more customization for their customer base.
So let's focus on Control4 here, and then I'm going to throw it over to Rob on our side here. So for me, the integration side is key. Control4 is one that comes up all the time, right? It's a proprietary system, very limited in terms of what they can. Elk works very nicely with that. Can you go a little bit deeper into that side?
Yeah, so we both the Alarm Engine platform and the M1 platform are both highly integrated in with Control4. We go about that a little different way. We work with a company called Chow Mein that develops our drivers for us. And the reason we do that is very, precise because Chow Mein basically is constantly improving that driver and working to add, value to the dealer when they're keeping it up. They're making sure if there's a new feature with Control 4 comes out, they support it on the Elk side. We work closely with them on the API side and make sure that we are giving them the product that they need to make the integration work the way they want it to work. And if there are suggestions to say, hey, the integration company wants to know this, can you guys add it? We can actually go in and customize our system or work with engineering to, add that extra bit of information to make the experience a lot better for the homeowner who's using Control 4 with an Elk panel, just to utilize the full platform versus maybe just hitting the low hanging fruit or whatnot there. So.
That's a good jump to Rob, Rob Mowles. If you've always got some cool examples of Elk. Do you want to touch a little bit further on that?
Yeah, I think I'm going to come back to that though a little bit later on. I kind of want to dive in a little bit more to integrations, and I'll just preface this by saying that Aartech has been an Elk distributor for I think over 20 years now.
Mhm.
And I've been a user in my own home and it's been used in our office. And so I'm very experienced with it and I have my reasons for loving it. And I used to follow and I still do somewhat follow the forums over at Cocoon Tech and the DIY community. They were lovers of Elk and I think they still are, but they've probably moved over to Reddit for the most part. But so what I wanted to find out from you, from your perspective, is I mentioned DIY and some alarm, and we have some great Elk customers as well. So who do you think is or who would you say is your ideal customer as an end user, and who would you say is your ideal customer as an installer / integrator?
Yeah, so right now, I would say that I'll take the integrator first. So our ideal customer on the integrator side is going to be, like you said, someone doing Control 4, Crestron, Savant, something as a system that they're doing as a primary, and security is almost a secondary addition that they add to it. So they're leading with selling an automation system, and they need a security system to be a part of that. And that's really where we designed our new platform with the alarm engine. We actually called it the alarm engine because it's the engine portion of the automation system. It's the alarm side of that. So it kind of plays into that a little bit. And it also works well when we go into a lot of the security side where we end up being a retrofit panel where we can really work on the security side of that as we're building out more features for the security dealer. So when it comes to the integrator, I would say the automation guys that are doing a lot of the Control 4, Crestron, things like that. And then for the customers, obviously it's the customer who is, in that type of application where a lot of times Elk doesn't become the forefront in those homes. Now, we do offer the ability for the system to do some little bit of automation without the automation system. So we have several integrators who work with us who choose to use the Elk as the hub. So they're maybe doing some Z-Wave or a little bit of UPB or something like that. And it really fits into those. We also, fit well into the governmental systems because of the level of quality the system has and how long it lasts and whatnot. They really enjoy putting those systems in and they're running 20 years in businesses. You're not replacing. We don't build our products to end of life. We build them to last forever. And it shows in our heritage with the Moose systems and also with Elk and the M1. We'll have M1s working for another 20 years. They're still, those things are built like tanks. But we do a lot of small commercial, mid-sized commercial, industrial. We've been in large homes, small homes, you name it. But just for the, at the tier and the price point that our product hits at, it tends to be in some of the more predominant homes in the, U.S. and Canada. So.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, and I can attest to the longevity. As I mentioned, I used it both for work and for home over the years, and I think my replacements have been limited to yellowing keypads that have been so long in the sun, or I think during COVID got wiped down so often that they started sticking. But that wasn't a keypad problem. That was just another issue. So yeah, so they certainly last. And I tend to agree. I think, the ideal as far as an installation, I think from my perspective anyways, I see it as small and large commercial and sort of that mid to higher end home. I don't think it's aimed at the entry level, someone looking for just, giving away a free alarm, that kind of a dealer. We're looking at, there's got to be a reason
Mhm.
that they make that choice away from something else.
And now I will spin off of that just a hair there, Robin.
It's,
So the alarm engine was originally created to really fit that, I would say, that entry level type home. So that's where we're I would say we're shaping it into that. Coming out of the field, obviously we're Elk, and so we're gonna model it after what we're used to building, and so we're gonna model it into the market where we have the biggest footprint. And so we really went after making sure that the integrator was satisfied with the new models coming out, and then as we're fine tuning that product, we're shaping it to be to where it will appeal to a security level dealer, what I call a security dealer, and I mean it with passion to say the two different markets. You have an integrator level and then the security guy, and we really recognize that our panels are viewed as more than what the security dealer is looking for at the moment, just because we do have a lot of features. So we took the alarm engine and we, for lack of a better term, we simplified it to make it a lot simpler and a lot easier to put in. I swapped out like another brand in my home whenever we came to Elk with the E27, and I was an installer for many years, and I swapped it in less than an hour and just felt like I didn't do something. I'm like, it's so simple and easy to set up. Surely I'm missing something. So we've really focused a lot on making them very different than the M1, and it's good and bad. That it's a lot, it's different than the M1 and how you configure it. It's different in how you set it up. But what we made different, what we felt like we've tried to improve on to make it simpler and easier to set up for the dealer as we're doing it. But add on a new line, it takes time to get things rolled out. We're a smaller development company, so we only have time for my 10 guys to work on certain things at a time. And as they get one thing done, they move on to the next, and we just keep building out. And M1 just has 22 years head start on the other panels, so it takes a little while to get up to speed.
I think
And
that's,
on the
sorry,
on
go
the
ahead.
side for the general security installer, the panel, I think Mike mentioned a little bit, it's perfect for takeovers.
Mhm.
It's a hybrid panel. It has wired and wireless on board. I mean, it's got 16 hard wires out of the box. It can go up to 128 hybrid, a mix of wire and wireless. So, an installer's walking into a house, they can pull the panel off, the existing unit that's there, swap it out, give the homeowner, the end user, some of the modern tech. We've got an app that runs with our systems, so they can control their whole alarm system off their phone. And then it also, like Mike was saying, has Z-Wave built in, so they can control their locks, their lights. And we kind of phrase it as it's exactly what you need with everything you might ever want, all in the alarm engine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, people may not realize, but Elk, it's set up as a wired system out of the get-go, but you can add receivers for either Elk brand or third-party products, right?
Absolutely.
Sensors
319
like
and
Interlogics, for example, and Honeywell,
correct.
right?
And
Perfect.
we loosely use the term, it's almost like a takeover module that's a panel. That's really kind of, if you look at the all-in-ones that they use the takeovers, but instead of us putting it in the keypad, it's back in the closet. So it does similar as we we really sought out to make the E27 a hardwire or a hybrid version of a all-in-one panel. So whereas you have obviously Qualys has done a great job, 2GIG's done a great job, Link's done a great job with theirs, and now I think the new Pro 6 series, they've done a great job with their all-in-one systems. And a lot of what those installers have out of those systems is the ability to do some Z-Wave, some video, some different things off of a touch screen, and just have that more than just a security system and a keypad. So when we went into it with the E27 or the alarm engine, we looked at it as how can we take that same offering and put it into a hybrid system? Because I found myself when I was in the industry as an ops manager trying to figure out how do I do this system that's, an all-in-one fits perfect, but they have, 30 zones wired already. How do I make that work without foregoing everything that's there? And so we wanted to have an offering that said, all right, target the homes that have old Z1100s in them and old, Moose panels that can easily be upgraded to be modernized while still, keeping in that old technology of the wiring. So we really made We really focused on how do we reuse that existing cabling and how do we, even use the resistors that are in the walls. So if they have existing resistors, we are good between, 800 ohm and 4,000 ohm. So we're okay. We say 2.2, but because that's our sweet spot, but actually we can vary back and forth to allow our dealers some flexibility, in case they're in a situation like that. There's just things that we built in there to try to make it simple to take over other, and I say take a reuse the existing capable wires that are in place, not necessarily the product.
So as a bit of a segue, thank you very much for that. How would someone, what would you recommend that they consider when they're doing either, let's say a net new install, and their options are, excuse me, their options are Elk and Qualsys, and up here more so probably DSC Neo and all the other brands that are out there, Ajax. Why should they choose Elk?
So I think it really comes down to, and I'm going to say this, whatever they're comfortable with. I mean, honestly, and we always tell our dealers, and our integrators is it's our job to make you comfortable with our product. And if we can train you and help you get up to speed and understand what you're putting in, then your comfort level goes up. So I know when I was an ops guy, you were hard pressed to get me off DSC at the time because that's what I was 20 years in that. And so, but that's where Elk comes in and says, hey, we can offer you these these things that other manufacturers may not be able to offer. Like, we are a little bit smaller of a manufacturer than DSC, obviously, or Johnson Controls or Qualsys or any of those guys, where we can allow you more flexibility, more customization, and also reactivity. So, and it's kind of a word I made up, but where you're letting us know, hey, I need something from the field, or I'm trying to do something, and Elk can actually, mold themselves to be what you need versus saying, hey, that's just the way it is. It's not going to work any other way. And so obviously we're going to recommend that you put an Elk system in because, that's our job. But we truly are passionate and want to make sure that we help you understand why that is and not just that, it's a talking point or something that we hit on to say you should just use Elk because Elk is Elk. But there's reasons we do that. I mean, every one of our control panels, every one of our keypads, anything that comes out of Elk that has software in it, like control panels, keypads, expander modules, is hand tested here in Hickory, North Carolina. Every single product. There's not a product. We don't run a batch and say we'll check 5 of them. Every single one is painstakingly hand touched by the same people who have done it for 20 years. So the ladies back running the production lines can tell me when something's wrong before the machinery can detect it. She's like, hey, this keypad's not quite right. And we'll go check it. And sure enough, there's something there. She's figured it out and heard it, or I hear the tone's a little different. So the amount of engineering and passion that we put into actually making the product is why you say, it lasts the way it does is we try not to, cut the corners or use cheaper equipment or, outsource a lot of our production, things like that. We're pretty much done here in Hickory.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, to frame that, if someone's looking for, I'll call it an inexpensive, up here it's $100 panel. I'm not sure what it is down in the States. This isn't probably your target market, but if it's into something that requires, as you said, some flexibility or, being able to do something creative. So I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what else you can do because you touched on a couple of things, actually the resistor, I didn't realize. I know you could support EOL, non-EOL. Looking at your list of sensor zones, I know it's from temperature. I've used it for light and doorbells. I think you used to and maybe still do have a doorbell module that you can tie into the front door. I used to have an integration. I don't know if that's a thing anymore, but I used to have an integration at my home where if someone rang the front doorbell, it would actually shut off the central vac and and do a couple other things, flash a light just to let me know. And that was all done with Elk 100%. Today, though, you mentioned, and I don't know if I'm going to forget anybody, but you integrate with Control4, Crestron, URC, Savant. I'm not sure if I'm missing anyone. I saw Alfred there, which is interesting. Not so much a control system, but another brand that we recognize up here. And then right into the DIY side, Home Assistant, Home Seer. I don't know anyone else that has such a wide list of integration options.
Yeah, and we've been very open book with our API. So basically the M1 API is public. I mean, anyone can download it, anyone can build a driver for it. So that model has been where we've really stayed open with that. So even on the E27, we're a little more closed door on it. Not that we're saying, we just want to make sure that we provide it to you. So it's by request. So if someone requests our API, we'll provide it over. I've got a guy that I'm working with right now who's basically a DIYer who's working on the home assistant driver. He's passionate about it, and he's honestly outshining some of the higher end automation systems when it comes to building what he can do with this driver. So, and we're right there. He's working with my head of engineering, so I give him direct contact, and they're talking back and forth, and so because the way we view it is the more that users can use our product, the more they know about our product, and the more they understand what it can do and how good of a panel it is. And to your point, like I said, if you're trying to go for a really inexpensive, quick, low cost system, Elk's probably not your best choice. But if you're wanting something that's a little more, up to upscale, and you're going to do some, have a little more options and a little more flexibility, then Elk's a good option there for that. But yeah, as you said, like Josh AI on the M1 side is a new one that just came on last year. We are working on a driver with them for the E27 yet. It's not quite out. The Alfred one was a fun one. We actually ended up one of the main guys at Alfred and Elk have a little bit of history. We know each other. So we ran into him at a show, and he said, "Hey, I'd love you to make your, panel do everything you could do with our locks." And so that's what we're working on, that integration side with the native integration with the Z-Wave on our system. So Alfred's been great to work with. So Alfred and EcoLink both have been really good partners when it comes to, making sure they provide the information we need to make sure their devices work well on the Z-Wave side.
And I can confirm it works well with Home Assistant. I don't know if you're part of the Works With program, but if you're not, maybe you should get certified with them.
I think I submitted a whole bunch of information to that, so I've got to follow back up. But yeah, well, I think we're in the process of getting that going.
Perfect. I want to talk to you a bit also about, or have you talk a bit about, you mentioned M1 Gold, that's the panel we started with years ago, M1 Gold and M1 EZ8. So, and it's still around. So what is that, what's the difference that you want to point out about Alarm Engine, and what does the future of the M1 and EZ8, the M1 Gold look like vis-a-vis?
So I'll touch on the differences first. They honestly are. We kind of describe the E27 Alarm Engine like M1's kid brother. So it's a smaller version of it. But it's night and day for programming. It's night and day for setup. It's night and day for operating systems as far as internal. They are completely different systems. They might as well be Interlogics to DSC, when it comes to like how do you actually set them up. Now, it's Elk to Elk, so there's a lot of Elk in it, and you'll feel like you're programming an Elk system. You'll see some of our Elk shine through, but what we did is, because of M1's age and the length of time from when we created a new panel versus when we created the other panel, things have changed so much in the last 20 years. When it comes to technology. So we really had to create a whole new ecosystem with a whole new offering there. So the backwards compatibility using, Alarm Engine parts on M1, we can't do that because the buses work at two different frequencies. They talk in two different languages, completely two different chipsets. Everything's different between the two models. So we've really focused a lot of our engineering and development on the new model of the E27 and the Alarm Engine. So to explain a little bit of that, we call it Alarm Engine. Alarm Engine is like our platform. So you would see it like you would see a Vista or a Power Series or an IQ or something of that nature. That's our platform. So Alarm Engine is a platform. All of our parts start with an AE, which indicates that it is an Alarm Engine part. Now, the first control panel is the E27. Now, there will be additional control panels coming, and as those control panels come out, all of those AE parts will be part of the ecosystem that works with those other controllers. So we just chose the really middle of the line first. We do plan on a lower end panel coming to where we would have something more, maybe even an all-in-one. I don't want to promise that, but we may get there at one point. That's a huge undertaking for Elk. But we're more likely to come in out with a panel that's a little larger, that fits more into the M1 style, where you need that more points, maybe into the 500 point range, something of that nature, to where we really have a bigger system to really there. So So that's kind of the alarm engine line. It's about a year and a half in development, in release of development. So we're slowly adding more and more to it. It's got a Elk Connect, it's its ecosystem that it's supported by on the software side, the apps and the web portal. And there is like a RP type replacement coming that'll be part of the Elk Connect system as well. Now for M1, we have no plans to end of life M1 or discontinue M1, but I will make a statement and say it's been around for 22 years. It's going to get to the point to where we're going to, especially with the way chips are going right now, that I'm just waiting for a phone call that's going to say, hey, you can't get them anymore. And I all thought that was going to happen during COVID when everything got so bad. So what we did during COVID is we placed a very large order for components. And so we stocked up basically the next 6 years worth of components and we brought them all in so we could build. Because I said, I don't want this to, end of life us here. So I have a feeling when we go to start making those reorders, we're going to start getting some information we don't want to hear. But right now we're good through 2030 before we start even worrying about whether we have M1 issues or not. So being part of the U.S. government organization, we have kind of a commitment there to supply them. So that's part of the M1s in that market. So we do a ton of work with them down here. So we wanted to make sure we had that secured, especially as it's basically given us the opportunity to develop the newest and better M1 one day. So that's kind of our goal.
Certainly nice to have the support of the government.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and I'm going to say that, that may be a 20-year-old panel, but to this day, it offers flexibility and functionality that I can't think of any other panel that really truly, and I say this selling a lot of different panels. Oh, yeah. I can't think of another panel that has this flexibility. Maybe HDMI back in the day was the closest one, perhaps, but they're gone now. So,
and my goal, and that's what I tell a lot of people at trade shows and when I'm in conversations like this, it's our goal to create something that you're going to look at our new thing and say, well, then why would I use your old one? Your new one's so much better and it's just like a new modern version of it. And that's where we're headed with the new stuff. We came out intentionally with a smaller panel first, just so we knew the M1 was going to be around for a while longer. We don't want to compete in the same market. So we wanted to have the smaller one out first. And then it also cuts its teeth on all of the development. So everything in the smaller panel gets stacked on for the bigger panel coming out. So.
Okay. And you say smaller, but when you say smaller, we're still talking how many zones?
128 is small for us.
Okay, so. Fair enough.
Yeah, the M1's 208. 200. We're at 128. So okay. That's our small panel, not smallest. We may go down into the, a little bit smaller stuff in the future, but for now, that is our small panel. And, when we're talking, I think between engineering and we'll call it marketing, we want what we want and they want to develop what they want to develop. And, we are looking at the 500 point range for the next panel, the bigger one. So
yeah,
that should cover everything we need. So
yeah, and so you're definitely not comparing to I won't name the brand, but some that consider 16 zones or 32 zones to be their max in one of their panels.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And in all reality, I mean, out of the box, our the E27 and the M1 cover 16 zones. So when you start comparing us, when you start looking apples to apples price wise, yes, out of the box we are more expensive, but when you start adding in the different things that you need to make, to get comparable to each other, we start getting a little more in line price wise, when you really start looking at it. I've done a lot of comparison and looked at that, but I'm never going to call Elk an inexpensive panel. So, we definitely know that. So.
And it doesn't take long to start adding up those zones, especially if you're using them for other things like temperature and motion and ways of automating. And I want to talk about Canada in a second, but I also want to just, we talked a little bit. Maybe you can give me, if you have a story, but I'll tell you one of mine. I talked to a dealer many, many years ago, and it caught me off guard because they were using an Elk M1 Gold, not for an alarm system, but they put this into a high-end bicycle shop, and they were actually using it connected. They had a touch screen, and it was connected by relays to big motors in the ceiling that would raise and lower these $5,000 custom bicycles from the ceiling for the customer to view. And it was just sort of an experience. It was nothing more than that, but it was an experience to make the customer excited. And just gives you an idea that people don't realize the brain, that's what Jeff called it, inside these panels. They're not just and if it's 4 o'clock, turn on the lights. This is, if then highly customizable programming in these panels. So do you have any, I'm putting you on the spot. Can you think of any kind of cool projects that was, a little bit off the beaten path, maybe?
Well,
I
I
will
heard of,
talk.
oh,
Go ahead.
good. I
You're
heard
both
of
jumping.
a fun one here in North Carolina. There's a ton of chicken farms. And, if you drive down through the country, you can see these big, long, metal buildings. And an M1 was controlling this entire operation. There's fans, throughout the building and temperature sensors. And so when a temperature hits a certain level, it kicks on a certain number of fans, doors opening and such. So it can be a lot more than just a security panel. It can do a lot of automation. And like you were talking about the rule systems, you've got inputs and outputs, and these relays can trigger just about anything that you want.
That's a good point.
And I just want to highlight, sorry, Robert or Mike,
No,
I
that's
just
all
want
right.
to highlight how many times everybody said flexibility, right? Like I jokingly say it's kind of Elk's secret weapon. And
Yeah,
it
it is.
really is, because I've used this saying before with Elk. I can introduce Elk to a lot of different integrators and they will tell me 15, 20, 100 different ways that they're going to integrate it. So flexibility really is the key here.
Absolutely. And I'll give you mine, Robert. We had a customer, and I couldn't believe this when I got the case study information from them, but they were installing M1 panels on the very large dump trucks used in mining that are like the ones the size of buildings.
Right.
And they are using it to monitor all of the different aspects of that truck for maintenance purposes. And then they were connecting it to wireless radios that were hitting node points in the mines to tell where it was while driving in and out of these. And they were using the counting techniques and the rules to count up and down. And it was amazing. I saw it and I was like, I cannot believe that if you have utilized the M1 Gold. And he's like, yeah, it works great. We put it in a NEMA box right on the side of the machine and it does all the inputs and it ties over here and it sends the data back out to us. And we were using the serial port to control. I'm like, wow, that is amazing. So, but yeah, in the mining industry was probably the one that was the most unique or oddity that I had ever saw. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, you make a good point actually, because people think of it as, can I, this panel can tie into my home assistant, and how do I make this, part of my project? And actually, as a matter of fact, in many cases, it could be the project. It has the power to run the whole show.
And in their situation, they wrote a piece of software that they integrate with us. So they're pulling that information right out of the 232 port, and
Right.
they just wrote it, and they said, hey, this works with our little module, and it does everything we need. And we're basically in the way I describe our M1 and our E27 to people is we're a logic controller that comes out of the box thinking it's an alarm panel. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I love it. Yeah.
We do everything that a logic controller can do, but we're just programmed to be an alarm panel first. And the E27 and the alarm engine adds a couple new things to the rules engine. So now we have an or and an else. So we've added a few more logic options in there so they can really get a little more creative on those rules that go in there. Everything's done through our portal, so they program these systems. And I can tell you at my personal house, there's not a Saturday morning that I don't go in there and see what I can tinker with. Or my wife hates it. I mean, she's like, how come I open the bathroom door and the lights come on? And I was like, well, it's me playing with the stuff that, I enjoy it. And she says, is this work play or you play? And I'm like, well, it's a little different. It's both. I like it for both.
A little bit of both.
A
Yeah.
little bit of both. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a very, very robust, what we call our automation system. And we jokingly, well, not jokingly, we have some pieces of marketing here where we were doing that before the likes of Google, the likes of Amazon, Alexa, the likes of any of these automation systems that were out there. We were automating people's homes and controlling different devices with the M1 panel. So it's when you really think about it, in 2004 when it was released, there wasn't an iPhone. It didn't exist, and so
That's right.
we were doing everything from touchpads. So
Absolutely. I just want to bring it over to, before we go too far here, but on the Canadian side, that was, I would say, maybe a minor weakness in the past was monitoring for Canadians. I know you had a C1M1, I think it was called, and I noticed that you just released some new product for the alarm engine, which includes communicators for AT&T, which presumably means works in Canada. So I just wanted to maybe get you to talk a wee bit about how that works, meaning, it's communicating to, to your portal. How does it relay signals to the station? What do they need to do? And does this all relate to Canada, or is there anything that we need to be careful of up here?
So all of our communication devices, and I'll speak on the E27 primarily. M1 follows the same directive with the C1M1 and the XEP when it comes to those, but we're primarily a IP communication, whether that's IP over cell or IP over IP. So when we're using a SureGuard format, similar to some of the other company who uses those, but we use that similar format there. And so Elk does it a little differently than most. None of that goes through our back end. So
Okay.
whenever when you put in an E27 and you program it to communicate to the central station, we go directly to the central station. So we never go through our back end, our NOC, nothing into that situation. We don't. So Elk Connect or Elk could not exist and your alarm system still functions as it should. Not saying that's going to happen, but we don't want something to the situation where, Cloudflare goes down or we lose the internet at our back end goes offline, which is hosted in the cloud. If Azure goes down, now all of our systems are offline. We wanted to make sure that wasn't a problem for Elk, so we intentionally designed our systems that way to where they all life safety communications, security communications, any of the monitoring center stuff is directly to the monitoring center, even if it's on sale. Sale goes directly to the monitoring center as well. And that's the case for the XEP, C1M1, the new AEX cell, and the E27 all utilize that same format. The only thing that goes through our back end is the interactive services. So with using your mobile app to arm and disarm, configuration of the system, write on rules, things like that, all goes through our back end. And even to that extent, when we created our back end, we utilize our controls as the authentication points. So whenever we're working on a system within the cloud, you authenticate with the control panel to say whether that user is allowed to make changes to it or not. So that way that data doesn't sit in our cloud where someone could possibly compromise it and then have access to all of our systems. There's nothing inside of our cloud or no way. That's when we get kind of pushed back a lot about our dealers and like, oh, can't you just unlock it and get into this panel? No, we have no access. We cannot access your control panels without your permission. Your pins or your installer codes lock us out. And so if you want us to, we have helped dealers configure, but they set us up an installer pin and we log in and we configure and help them out and then we log out. But there is no way we can access systems without their authentication. But so yes, our communications go, unlike a lot, go directly to the monitoring center. We don't burn it through any kind of relay on our end, which also improves speed of communication, things of that nature.
Perfect. Yeah, for sure. So there's no, I guess, cost for the installer for your portion of the service. It's just whatever it costs them to run their monitoring.
So on the monitoring side, there is no cost on our side. Now the interactive services on Elk Connect, there is a small flat fee that we charge for interactive, and that also includes the cellular cost. So if you're doing cell or IP, it's one flat fee. We don't get into like, well, cell costs this much, or if you're going to do this, it costs that. It's all one flat, and we're just trying to cover the cloud costs for offering the interactive. Now,
Okay.
what I call interactive is when the integrator or the security dealer is reselling the service. So they have an end user
Right.
involved and they're reselling that to an end user. Then there's a cost for the installer. If the installer is using an IP-based system and they are using, let's say, Control4's application, and the customer's using the Control4 to remote control the system, there is no cost from Elk.
Right.
The dealer can, or the integrator can connect to that system remotely through the Elk platform at no cost. We don't charge anything for that. We're only looking to regain, and it is a very small flat fee if they choose to resell the services. So.
Okay, that's fair. Everyone loves free cloud, but what a lot of people don't realize is the cloud is not free.
It's not. It's very, especially for a company our size, we have to sell a lot of control panels to cover it. And that's really our goal, is to sell more control panels. When we came out with this cellular offering, we are hosting the sale in-house. So we are doing all the activation, the services and whatnot. So
Okay.
that's the difference for us. And so there is a cost that goes with having those Verizon and AT&T accounts, things of that nature.
Sure.
But we are looking at it and we said from a business standpoint, let's just roll it into the same cost that's there. If they're reselling the service, it's the same flat fee. I don't care if you're doing cellular or if you're doing IP. It's the same thing. So
Okay, that makes it easy. And it works fine with Canada. This is something that I haven't really, because these are new modules. So
yeah, so they're brand new, and I'm hoping to have some today that I'm shipping up to one of your customers to do some testing for me.
great,
So
perfect.
I've been working really close with some guys up in your way, and they are very gracious to say, hey, we'll do some testing and we'll provide you feedback. And they were early on doing a lot with us on the E27 side. So
Okay.
I've arranged to have them several units sent up that way. So as soon as they're coming off the production line, and it's coincidentally today is when we're releasing it. So they're actually back there, and that's when my phone's binging there left and right as people are going through trying to get things
Yeah,
buttoned up. But yeah, as soon as they get off the line, then I'm gonna pull them a couple aside and send them up to them to do some testing for me. So,
that's perfect. I would say that Elk dealers are sort of, I would say, fiercely loyal. So glad to hear they're helping you out.
oh, they are. They've done
Sure.
for good and bad. They tend to tell us exactly what they want us to hear
Yeah,
when it's nice, and then they tell us what we don't want to hear, which I love. I mean, feedback is how Elk gets better.
yeah.
A lot of customers apologize for telling me when something's not quite right. And I'm like, yeah, don't ever apologize for that. I mean, that I would pay someone to tell me what's not right. I'd much rather know that than someone just say, yeah, it's great, and then go use a different product because they're, don't want to hurt my feelings or something of that nature. It's not about that. It's about making the product better for the customer. And so that's where we honor it. And I get on we have a forum that we use for customer feedback and problems and things of that nature. And I personally manage the E27 forum myself just because I want to be the one hearing what these customers, they don't know who I am. They don't know who they're telling that to. I'm just another guy chatting with them on the internet. So if they want to tell me how it is, tell me how it is. And so I'm in on with them, Saturday night and Sunday morning, just making sure that they get the answers that they have. And my tech guys kind of laugh at me for doing it, but I think it's a good way to get really unfiltered feedback. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that apologizing, it sounds very Canadian, and for that, I'm sorry.
Well, I'm Southern, so it's the same thing. So that's pretty close.
Perfect, perfect. All
I
right.
I just want to jump back a little bit. A lot of the integrations of flexibility we've been talking about has been a bit more kind of residential, maybe for lack of a better term. Can we
Mhm.
jump over in Canada and in a lot of areas, in particular housing, probably down there as well, I would think, a lot more multi-residential, a lot more commercial applications. Can we talk a bit about the access control side?
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, I just kind of want to throw it to you a little bit there, or Rob, you can
Yeah.
probably jump into this a little bit deeper, either one of you.
Well, I think I'll let him go because I mean I'm familiar with it, but the newer product, I think it makes more sense to talk about it from an Elk perspective.
Yeah, so on the M1 side, I'll cover that one first. We can do what I would call, door control, access control. I wouldn't call us a full-on access control system. Now, we do integrate with a couple different platforms that allows the M1 to be more robust access control system. But we can do, I usually tell people under 8 doors pretty comfortably with the M1. If you're doing more than that, you start pushing the limits of what we are capable of in that panel, which works great when you're going into an application where you want to integrate it with security, since it is security that's doing the access. We use it on our building here. We use it on 2 of our sister companies' buildings. We love it. It works great for that application. The E27 alarm engine, I wouldn't say it's quite access control yet. It's part of the one things that we're building out. We're hoping that maybe later this year we get that access control board out. And the plan there is to build a 2-door controller that'll go on the bus. So instead of a single door controller like we do with M1, we can expand our offering by doing more doors on the E27. Now, you can do access control with it. Currently, it's just you have to know a little bit more about how to use the rules and utilize some of our keypads for readers versus having standalone reader applications. We're just in the process of really building out that offering for the new platform.
Nice. So, and multi-residential, is there anything kind of above and beyond that you've seen anybody do with the Elk systems?
Only we've done some of the multifamily when it gets into less than 8 systems, and we've used our ability to divide or partition up our system into areas. It works well. We've had some townhomes where they've done 4 to 6 units and it's worked really well. Not to have to put multiple systems in. They've just basically taken an Elk system in, put it into an equipment closet, and then divided it into multiple systems for the tenants and where they can operate independent of each other. Due to our high zone count and our abilities there, it doesn't really push the limits of the panel. When we get into like multifamily home, I think things like intercom entry, things of that nature, and we really haven't gotten too much on that expanded on that on the E27 side or even the M1 side. I mean, integrating with some different platforms makes us a little more capable there, but and there are some things on the horizon that I've lightly talked about with some different engineering teams, and I don't know that we'll chase them, but we may get down those roads of entry level systems, things of that nature.
Nice. Rob, did you have anything to add to that, or because I know you've got some experience there?
Yeah, not so much that, and I don't know, maybe it's I don't know if you want to cut over to that, but I wanted to get into, before we run out of time, just talking a little bit about not alarm products, because Elk is not just an alarm manufacturer or panel manufacturer. You do a lot of other pieces, and so I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about the other pieces that you have.
All right.
Well,
So,
yes.
Go ahead.
I was going to just chime in. As far beyond panels, Elk is famous for our batteries. Our batteries have a 2-year warranty, so we're double the warranty off most batteries that are out there, and just renowned in the industry for a battery that just is going to last and last and last. And the reason it is the Elk battery has virgin lead when they build it. So from the get-go, it just has better chemistry inside it. So they're able to get more amp hours out of the same footprint. Something else neat for you distributors out there, we made the Elk battery even better. We just went through a new reboxing project. The batteries are now being shipped double boxed. We know they're very heavy, and the carriers do a good job, but they also do a good job of testing gravity every once in a while. And so our boxes are now better for our Elk batteries. And of course, we got a whole line of things that can work on any system. We've got sound drivers, we got siren drivers, we've got horns and large, very, very loud speakers, and those will work on any system.
Right, and I've seen, so what's an example of, you've got a recordable module, for example. Is any thoughts on where that might be applied?
Okay, the one we have the most fun with is it's our model 120. It can record 8 channels of information. And so you can record into it. You can also download WAV files inside this device. And some use applications, we've got a zoo where you walk up to the cage of the animals and you push a button and it gives you a 2-minute talk and spiel about the animals. And inside that device are Elk Model 120s. And during COVID, all those little systems that said, please stop and have your temperature taken, all those were being driven by Elk 120s. And it has a microphone on board, so you can record directly onto the card, or you can buy a device and download WAV files into it. So you can make anything speak to you. So, that little Christmas present that you can push a button and record, into a little doll or something, you can do this the right way.
Yeah, instead of AI. It won't surprise you with what it says. You'll actually know in advance.
Exactly.
I saw that used with, I think, buses up here. They had it tied into a bus, and it was around entry and exit on the bus.
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually had an offer to go pretty large with that on a bus company was looking at us and talking through there. And the 120 is a great product. I mean, it's 12 volt DC, so it's very simple to operate, and it doesn't require an alarm system. Anything you could put a button on and make it work. You could, like Robert was saying there with the zoo application, that was probably one of the more interesting ones. We've had grocery stores that have tied them into the motion sensors when you walk up to the certain food things to give you a little, hey, remember eggs are on sale today, or something like that. And we've done those, or when you come into convenience stores and have a message that plays, or, we have one application I was working with a local dealer on here, a security guy who does a lot of covered pantries as a local gas station local here. And the worker can sometimes get in the back and start restocking shelves and not know that someone comes in. So we worked with them on helping them record out some that says there's a visitor in the lobby, or it just when it comes in, or someone came in the back door, or help is needed at the gas pumps. So we have 4 channels so they can play a message depending upon where the actual issue is coming from. And we also use a lot of it for customizable doorbells in commercial applications. We use them here at the office. There's a visitor at the receiving door. So whenever a truck is making a delivery, we know which one of the 100 bay doors you're supposed to go let someone in at. And so when they push the button, it announces which door to go into. And then we also use it for with a timer module that sets a timer whenever they open the door for too long. Please close the receiving doors so birds don't get in and set off motion detectors. So yeah, it's a very polite way of offering customization, and you can even do, like I said, messages or just sounds and tones. It's a really nice product, inexpensive product for what it does.
Perfect. Jeff, anything else you want us to cover?
Honestly, I just like to do what I kind of call the lightning round a little bit. We get some generic questions. I shouldn't say generic, consistent questions from our installers. Not everybody can speak to the level you guys just spoke to. So I'm going to take it down a notch a little bit and just kind of highlight a few things. So wired or wireless? Really simple question. Wired or wireless, all on its own.
Wired or wireless. So
yeah, hybrid system.
Yeah. So Elk, I mean, we're from my time, I guess at this point, I'm an old school guy. I've been around a while, so I'm going to go wireless first, or excuse me, wired first, wireless when I have to. That's just my goal. Elk does both very well, but we are a wired company by heart, so we're going to really push for the wired side of things. But I'm a believer in don't sacrifice good wiring for simple wireless. I mean, that's kind of the way that I look at it is if you can wire it or reuse the wiring, please do. But if you have to go with wireless, then you have to do wireless. It's not a problem.
And your wireless is two-way wireless, right?
Yeah, so our current wireless that we offer is two-way wireless on our 6000 series. We also have a 319 series, and then we support the 345 series as well. So, and we support all three technologies on the same panel. So if you have existing 319 and some existing 345, why you would, I have no idea. But if you did, and then you wanted to use Elk smoke detectors on the two-way because you want the sound off feature, you can add the functionality to do that within a home. So we allow that flexibility. You can have up to 4 receivers on the system on the E27. I think it's 9 on the M1. So you can build out that network of wireless as much as you want. So we do support it as very well in our systems. It's just that, like I said, we will say wired is better than wireless any chance you can get it.
Yeah. And just remember, every time you put in a wire, you're saving the battery hassle for life.
Absolutely.
100%. What about one Elk feature that's, criminally unused? What one feature would you like to see used more? Maybe that's just an awareness thing. Any suggestions?
I would say it's probably, I lean on our rule system. Like, I mean, Rob has touched on it a little bit, and we've touched on it a lot here. We talk a lot about it, but I'd say as far as our dealers utilizing it as much as they should, I think once we have an integrator or a dealer use it, then it's like they're hooked. They'll use it a lot. But it's not something that we think the bulk of our customers really put that much focus on, I guess you would say.
Fair enough. And the last one, I like this question. I like to ask this a lot of, and this is more of an industry question, but like what should installers be learning now to be relevant in 5 years? I know you've touched on a few things for the future here. So is there anything in particular direction wise that installers should be looking ahead to?
I mean, network. If they're not working with network or understanding how networks work, that's where things are headed. Data obviously is going to be how much more data points they can get out of systems at Elk, or even before I got to Elk. But at Elk, I've always had the mindset that we're not building security systems anymore. We're building information systems for your home or your business. And so the more information we can provide the customer, the more they know about their property and the more they can, better their lives. So as an integrator or a dealer, understanding how that connectivity works and how all of those products integrate and hook together will help them better themselves in the future. We have a lot of dealers who we work with on this, especially with the E27, because it's very IP native. And so it's got the IP port right on the board, and we get a lot of customers when we start saying, well, you got to make sure it has DHCP enabled, or do you run in the static? And then they're not quite grasping where we're at because they've just come from a different world, especially on the security side. The integrators, most of the time they're doing the network anyway, so they understand us, and that's really why we probably fit a little better in that field currently as people get up to speed on the network side. I remember when cameras made the switch from coax to IP and the learning curve there. So I think security is headed that way in the same manner, especially with the wired systems.
Perfect. And maybe I should have asked the positive one second and the negative one first, but knowing what you guys know about the industry, what's one thing you see installers out there doing as a general rule that really you just wish would stop and they'd move on to something else? Is there anything that kind of catches your attention there?
Replacing wired systems with wireless systems is going to be where I'm at. It's a problem in our industry, and simplicity is overtaking quality. Yeah, I think so. Everyone is after what's the simplest and easiest way to do something, so that I don't have to have a properly trained technician or a higher level trained technician. Properly trained is probably the wrong word, but what I mean is just that it's easier for me to buy or to, as an operations guy, to get a simpler system than it is to utilize a more secure way of doing things or a better way. I mean, like Robert said on our end, you're saddling this customer with all these batteries just because the cable was there and you didn't know how to use it, or you didn't choose to learn how to use it. So we would really advise better training, spend more time, teaching the old ways to the new guys. Everyone wants to, and we're a product of it as well. I'll say everyone wants to set everything up on an app, but our new system only sets up on an app. So we're leaning into it just as much as anyone else, but we're also trying to make sure we pull along some of that old heritage of the wiring and things like that. It really got us where we are. I mean, we were security people to begin with, but as I've stated, that's kind of turned into more information than anything, It's not so much about sending the police to your house as much as it is telling you left your garage door open. So
yeah, 100%. Half the time the police won't respond nowadays, anyways, right? So it's just too,
really, Yeah, it's really about letting the user know, and that's what I have this conversation a lot and say, well, it's not about catching somebody breaking into your home. It's about making sure that you're aware that that's happened, and that you don't walk into a situation where it's unsafe for you and your family, or if a fire is happening at your house and you're in bed, making sure that we get you up and everything happens there. So our focus is around making sure that we give the dealer and the end user the right information they need and the quickest and most clearest message that we can do it, so that they have the ability, whatever's important to them may be different. It could be that they want to know when, how many times the front door opens, or they want to know, if someone, didn't turn the water on today or something of that nature. We can detect all kinds of different things for them.
Yeah, and that opens up a lot of opportunities in a lot of different ways. So that's great. So yeah, I think honestly from my end, I just want to put a bow on the networking comment. So almost like you were on my podcast last week where we talked about bad networks kill good installs. Doesn't matter how good the hardware is, doesn't matter how good the install is. If the network is bad, the network is bad, right?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
So that's where we are here. I mean, developing this panel that's our biggest challenge, is how good's the network that we're going to go into, so our tech support team would second your podcast last week. So
fair enough. Well, perfect. Was there anything else anybody wanted to add to the conversation?
Good.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. As our who's watching this can see, the support we get from Elk is phenomenal. The relationship speaks for itself. We've been working with them essentially the length of our existence itself. So definitely one of our most trusted brands, and there is no limit to it, in my opinion. The flexibility is the word that came up over and over and over again. If you're looking for some design support, if you're looking for some ideas as to tie into the system, please reach out to our team here at Aartech. We can reach out to Mike and Robert and his team if need be as well. Thank you very much for everybody for joining us today. We'll definitely break this down into some highlights to send out as well, but this has been fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
We appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. That has been another episode of the Aartech Pro Connect podcast. We'll be back with more discussion soon. In the meantime, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Bye-bye.